Hello and welcome to the library. My name is Serdd and I am your host and narrator. So, how has everyone's week been? This is now Wednesday, and I'm curious how everyone's doing. I don't want to have any spoilers, but we got some good news today in the trial. I say with bunny fingers, or the quotation marks. So we got some good news today. So it was very exciting. No spoilers, just good news. So I want to, of course, welcome you to the library. I know that I said on Monday that I would be starting a brand new Danmei entitled The Wife is First, or Wife is First. I don't know if there's a "the" in there. But I really want to expand my channel in that I want to reach more people. And so I'm going to be putting it out to you in the coming days. I'm not sure exactly when because I am still learning as I go with this. But I have a bunch of ideas on different things that I can do for this channel, for the library, as well as over on my other venture over on YouTube, my Serdd's audio fan fictions. I do want to keep them separate though. I want to keep the fan fiction stuff over with the fanfic over on SAF, and I want to keep all the Danmei and the anime and the manga and all the BL stuff over here on the library. So there will be a bit of a separation there between the two. I have so many ideas on different things that I can bring to this as a VTuber. And so I will be putting up hopefully soon. I'm not exactly sure when. I don't want to shoot myself in the foot and say this is now, like I did on Monday. But so I will be putting a poll up in the coming days, weeks, whenever, hopefully soon, as to different options, different ideas that I've had on different shows or ventures that we can do together. And so I would love to see your thoughts on this. But yeah, I don't think you care too much about all my rambling, but let's just say that this has been a week of research. So much research. Alrighty, let me just pull the chat over here so that I don't miss people like I did last week, or not last week, on Monday. I still have not turned that off yet, and I wish to hell I had. Alrighty, that's pretty good there, I think. And you can't see it, so yes, that is good. Okay, so as usual, we will be starting the next chapter in Married Thrice to Salted Fish. If you've missed any episodes, I'm gonna take this right from my show. If you've missed any episodes or just want a refresher, please follow the links or the what will it be? Or if you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be the explainer, what are those called? The end screen cards, I guess. Well, the video thumbnail. If you're watching this on YouTube, please follow the video thumbnails that will pop up at the very end. And it should show you the chapters that came before. And if I've already gone past, then it'll also show you the episode that comes after, so that they're all in a playlist. Also over on YouTube, they're all in a playlist. So you can also go over there if you've missed any episodes. On Twitch, I know that they delete after a certain amount of time. So if you're watching this, you want to go back to the beginning, please head on over to my YouTube channel where it has everything listed and in order. And yeah. Also, if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, anything that you think I should do differently, anything you think I should do, period, please leave any comments, or I don't know if DMs work on Twitch. I'm not sure. But please let me know. I am always open to suggestions, as long as they're nice and you're not being mean to me. Alrighty. That was a slightly longer intro than I usually do, so I'm going to pop right into it. Also, I'm not sure if you knew, but we do have I haven't been listing the Discord anywhere, have I? That'll be one more link that I will have to include in my list of links that are in the description of each video. And in all of the social media links. I have a Discord. So if you'd like to chat, hang out, come share pet pictures, we do it all over there. Alrighty, I'm going to hop right into this. Because, let me get my music up and make sure it's working. It was working before. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I think you see the theme we're going with here. It will be very light, though. And I'll be playing with it off and on. I really do apologize if I hit the, hit my microphone or anything. It's oddly placed so that I can get a good sound, but my camera can also pick up my mouth movements because it hasn't been lately. So. Chapter 36. I've done something bad again, Wancheng. Although Lu Wancheng was seriously ill, under Lin Qingyu's careful care there were very few times of embarrassment, and he never vomited blood. He couldn't save Lu Wancheng's life, but at the very least he could let him walk cleanly and with dignity. Nasty things like blood should never appear on his body. Lu Wancheng vomiting blood seemed to have turned on the switch for the poison to release. More and more gushed out. After a while, it dyed red the fabric of his clothes and the brocade quilt. He then fainted. "Eldest young master!" Hua Lu cried. "Eldest young master, please don't scare the servant." "Shout, and what do we do?" The servants of the Blue Wind Pavilion had never been faced with this sort of battle. All the servants were flustered, waiting for Lin Qingyu to take charge of the situation. After Liu Chaosong hit the back of his head against the pillar, he was sent kneeling to the ground by several servants. He had lost all dignity as a young master. Seeing so much blood, he remembered how he'd done the same all over that singer that day. His eyes were about to split, and his... What? Just a sec. That's odd. Oh, okay. His sides were about to split, and his eyes were red as he shouted happily, "Lin Qingyu, do you see? Your husband vomited blood so..." Sorry. "Lin Qingyu, do you see? Your husband vomited so much blood. He's going to die. No matter how good you are at medicine, no matter how many 1,000-year fleece flower root you give him, you won't be able to save him." Lin Qingyu looked at him and suddenly let out a low laugh. That voice carried a chill that pierced through the bone. Paired with that face, there was unexpectedly a sense of bewitching coquettishness, sending chills down people's spines. When Liu Chaosong came back to his senses, he was invited out by the servants of the Blue Wind Pavilion. The curtains in front of the bed were lowered, and only the shadows of the figures behind could be seen. Lin Qingyu was busy all... No. Wait. Pause. I think that's missing something. I feel like when I edited that, there was something there. Let me just see here real quick. This is chapter 36, yes? Oh, I felt like there should be something there. I don't know. I don't know why I thought that. I felt like Lin Qingyu went, "Watch me," or something like that, but apparently not. Okay. He was invited out by the servants of the Blue Wind Pavilion. The curtains in front of the bed were lowered, and only the shadows of the figures behind could be seen. Lin Qingyu was busy all night through till midnight. It could be said that he saved Lu Wancheng's life, The servants helped Wancheng wipe off the blood and put on clean clothes and bedding. Wancheng lay quiet and peaceful, sleeping, spotless, as if feeling no pain at all. Lin Qingyu watched him for a while. The main courtyard sent a servant to deliver a message, saying that the madam was asking the Xiaozhen to come over. You bitch. Fuck you. She gotta die too. I'm sick of her. Liu Chaosong had run to the Blue Wind Pavilion to make a scene, making his seriously ill brother vomit blood. This was considered a major event in the house, and even Nan'an Hou was also disturbed. After hearing the ins and outs of the matter, he said angrily, "Where is that unfilial son now?" Now that the matter had blown up to this point, Liang Shi no longer kept up the pretense of being a loving mother to Wancheng. Making concessions in order to gain advantages, sobbing and sniffling, she said, "Master Hou knows that Wancheng is ill, but do you remember that Chaosong is also ill?" "How can his illness be compared to Wancheng's? He knew that his brother was seriously ill, but he went to the Blue Wind Pavilion to kick up a fuss, spouting insolent remarks. Should he not be punished?" "Naturally he should be punished. It's just that after Chaosong was kicked out of the Blue Wind Pavilion by the servants, he unexpectedly fainted. The doctor said that his body was weak and that he mustn't get angry. Saying so may sound bad, but Wancheng, he is already like this. Does Master Hou really want to punish Chaosong while he is ill, possibly worsening his condition?" Liang Shi wiped away tears, observing Nan'an Hou's expression. "Master Hou doesn't know, but Chaosong just found a cure for his unmentionable illness. He was too eager to get well, wishing to provide descendants for Master Hou. In his eagerness, he impulsively contradicted his eldest brother and wife. If Master Hou wishes to punish him, I, his mother, have nothing to say. My only request is that Master Hou wait for him to feel better before punishing him." Having no descendants has always been a matter of utmost concern for Nan'an Hou. Hearing Liang Shi say that Liu Chaosong's unmentionable illness had hope of being cured, he couldn't help but waver. "Is what you say true?" Liang Shi nodded again and again. "I wouldn't dare deceive Master Hou." Lin Qingyu watched with cold eyes, only feeling that these two were wasting his time. Nan'an Hou glanced at Lin Qingyu and said, "Forget it. Let the two of them recuperate first. No matter. Other matters will be discussed later." Lin Qingyu walked out of the main courtyard, and Huan Tong immediately greeted him. "Young master, what did Master Hou say?" Lin Qingyu sneered. "Were you still counting on him?" Huan Tong couldn't believe it. "But the third young master made young Master Hou vomit blood. It can't be that he just plans to let this matter go, right?" "Enough," Lin Qingyu said. "Go and find Jiang Xishun." Lu Wancheng slept for 3 days before waking up. Although Liu Chaosong was spared punishment, he was also warned by Nan'an Hou not to approach the Blue Wind Pavilion and disturb his brother's recovery. In addition, Nan'an Hou also asked the steward to go to the market to buy some 1,000-year fleece flower root for Liu Chaosong to use as medicine. Liu Chaosong ate the precious medicinal herb like a meal. Piles and piles of money were spent, but it still didn't work. By this time, he realized that he might have been deceived by that quack doctor. In a fit of anger, Liu Chaosong imprisoned the quack doctor in the firewood room of the mansion, threatening him that if he couldn't think of a way to cure him, he would chop off his hands so that he wouldn't even be able to carry his bowl to beg for food. The quack doctor was frightened out of his wits. Who knows whether the emergency brought out by his quick-wittedness or who knows whether the emergency brought out his quick-wittedness or what, but he actually came up with a prescription. Liu Chaosong was skeptical, but prepared the medicinal pill according to his prescription. After taking a few pills, he really felt that his body had changed. His spirit was excited, his body was hot, and his waist and legs were also able to get stronger. Liu Chaosong was overjoyed, thinking that soon his shameful illness should be cured. Liang Shi was also overjoyed. The son left by the first wife had only a few days to live. Her daughter was now the side concubine of the crown prince. If her son could be cured and leave descendants for the Hou mansion, her life would be complete. The only thing that worried her a bit was that though she had had someone bring news into the Eastern Palace to tell Lu Nantao that what had been going on in the mansion, she hadn't gotten a reply. So she prepared a generous gift and sent someone to bring it to the eunuch who helped mother and daughter pass word to each other. Unexpectedly, the eunuch threw the person out, coldly throwing out this sentence: "The Nan'an Hou's mansion has truly raised a good daughter." When Liang Shi heard these words, she felt very anxious, but she couldn't find out what had happened. She wasn't able to enjoy her comfortable days for long before she began to panic again. She didn't know what Lu Nantao was She didn't know what about Lu Nantao was good, but Lin Qingyu knew very well. Hu Ji brought him news. His medicine had worked. A few days ago, Xiao Chang's head suddenly began to hurt. He had a splitting headache, deafness, and pain in his eyes. It made him want to hit his head against the wall. Imperial physicians from the Imperial Hospital gathered in the Eastern Palace, but after looking for a long time, they couldn't find the cause. Concubine Chen ordered a thorough investigation into the expenditures of the Eastern Palace. From the food, tea, and water to all the clothing, no detail was overlooked. Still, nothing could be found. At this time, Concubine Chen's female head servant had said that since the problem wasn't in the Crown Prince's palace, maybe it was in another place? As a result, the palaces where the two concubines resided were also carefully searched. The incense Lu Nantao used in her palace was found and checked by the imperial physician. But Xiao Chang was suspicious by nature. Even if the imperial doctor said that there was no problem with the incense, he still ordered that no one in the entire Eastern Palace should use incense in the future. Xiao Chang was no fool. The same trick couldn't be used on him twice. Lin Qingyu knew that Lu Nantao had outlived her usefulness. Such being the case, he ought to squeeze out whatever value she had left. Imperial Physician Hu was loyal to his father, and he had helped them so much. He deserved something in return. The cause of the Crown Prince's headache could not be found. The imperial doctors of the Imperial Hospital were all helpless in the face of this crisis. No one expected that it would be Hu Ji, a newcomer to the Imperial Hospital, who would finally find the cause. There was nothing wrong with the incense used by the crown prince's side concubine. But if it was mixed with Feng Qi Huang and Sheng Shaizai, Sheng Taizhi, it will cause wind heat syndrome, easily leading to a headache. Feng Qi Huang, Feng Qi Huang and Sheng Taizhi. Okay, you know what? We're asking Google Sensei about these. This is the one I'm having issues with. Because usually a C is pronounced like a T sound. But my brain really wants to go chazi, chazi, chazi. It's Google Sensei. Google Sensei, how do you say this?
S 横叉字
Chazi. Oh, it is chazi. Okay.
S 横叉字
I don't know why they insist on saying the S, but it's Sheng.
S 横叉字
Yeah. Sheng chazi. Chazi. Okay.
S 横叉字
I didn't mean to hit it a third time. Okay. Do I have to say it again? Feng Qi Heng. Yeah, Heng. And Sheng Chazi. Sheng Chazi were the special incense used by the Empress and concubine Chen. The crown prince went to Fengyi Palace and Changli Palace every day to pay his respects. Occasionally, he would go to the side concubines at night. After the truth was revealed, concubine Chen was furious. She thought of how the Nan'an Hu's mansion and the Empress had a relationship by marriage. She thought that this must have been deliberately done by Nan'an Tao, and that it was instigated by the Empress. Oh. Wait. Sorry, just a sec. I got so caught up. Okay, I'm going to go and read that again. Because I got sidetracked. Okay. There was nothing wrong with the incense used by the crown prince's side concubine. But if it was mixed with Feng Qi Huang and Sheng Chazi, it will cause heat wind syndrome, easily leading to a headache. Feng Qi Huang and Sheng Chazi were the special incenses used by the Empress and concubine Chen. The crown prince went to Fengyi Palace and Chenglu Palace every day to pay his respects. Occasionally, he would go to the side concubines at night. After the truth was revealed, concubine Chen was furious. She thought of how the Nan'an Hu's mansion and the Empress had a relationship by marriage. She thought that this must have been deliberately done by Nan'an Tao and that it was instigated by the Empress. Concubine Chen cursed at Nan'an Tao, calling her a despicable woman, and delivered 2 slaps to her face. She almost raised this matter with the emperor, but was stopped by Xiao Cheng. In the Eastern Palace, Nan'an Tao grew pale from crying. She insisted that she hadn't known about it. She only used this incense because His Highness liked it. Xiao Cheng knew that she wasn't lying. Nan'an Tao counted on the Eastern Palace to support her and her mother. She had no motive to lay a hand on him. Furthermore, it hadn't been easy for Xiao Cheng to acquire the position of crown prince. Before he successfully ascends the throne, he didn't want to make trouble with Nan'an Hu. It was an unintentional mistake on the part of Lu Xi. And for the sake of Nan'an Hu's face, Xiao Cheng did not publicize the matter. He only asked that Nan'an Tao move out of the side hall. After that, Liang Shi never heard from her daughter again. That's good. That's so good. Oh, that's good. Like, I don't know. I feel like I should not be as pleased about that as I am. I don't know. Liu Nantao had completely fallen out of favor, with no possibility of changing her fortunes. If Xiao Cheng dies, she would become a lifelong widow in the palace. If Xiao Cheng ascends to the throne, she would be nothing but an abandoned concubine in the cold palace. She couldn't blame anyone. From beginning to end, it was her own choice. Oh, Lin Qingyu, you're so good. So good. Like a fucking boss. And He, who was young and promising, had a bright future. He had earned the appreciation of the crown prince and concubine Chen, becoming a mighty newcomer in the imperial hospital. His future was limitless. Lin Qingyu had a complete picture of the situation in the Eastern Palace. But when he talked to Wancheng, he only told him the first half. Xiao Cheng had a headache. The imperial doctors were helpless. If this dragged on, medicines and treatments would be ineffective. Even Hua Tu, yeah, Tu or To? I'm going to go with To. Even Hua Tu would find him difficult to treat. Hearing this, Lu Wancheng said, "Then does that mean I don't need to drink the medicine anymore? The poison is really painful." Lin Qingyu's chest clenched, and he said, "If you don't want to drink it, don't drink it." Lu Wancheng looked at him for a while, then laughed. "This maneuver is truly well done. It is worthy of appreciation. Hua Lu. Hua Lu. Hua Lu. Hua Lu brought in a wooden box carved from mahogany. It had 5 layers and 7 to 8 drawers, large and small. There were handles on top, holes are punched on both sides, through which strong cloth ropes were passed through. This was a medicine box that a doctor carried on his back when he went out. Lin Qingyu noticed that there was a strange symbol engraved in an inconspicuous corner of the medical box. It was the symbol that Lu Wancheng drew on the paper last time. "I asked the carpenter to make it according to the drawings I designed," Lu Wancheng said. "In the future, when you enter the Imperial Hospital, you should carry this medicine box with you when you go out." Lin Qingyu smiled. "Thank you." Looking at the smiling face of the person beside him, Lu Wancheng couldn't hold back and said, "They say one should return politeness for politeness. Won't you give me a gift in return?" Lin Qingyu asked, "What do you want in return?" Lu Wancheng thought about it seriously and put on a distressed look. I still want to see what Dr. Lin looked like in his wedding dress." Lin Qingyu. Crickets are back. For him, marrying another man as a male wife had been the thing most against his will that he had ever done. Even if the person he married turned out to be his friend and confidant, it could not change this. To have him wear a wedding dress again was tantamount to reminding him of the humiliation at that time. However, if Lu Wancheng really wanted to see it that much, it wasn't impossible for him. Before he could respond, Wancheng reached out, trying to touch the long hair hanging down on his chest. Maybe he found it dazzling. Wancheng tried several times, but failed to catch it. Look, you're all tangled about. Wancheng smiled triumphantly. I'm joking. Can't you hear it? I can't, Lin Qingyu said softly. You always do this. Make it so that people are unable to tell truth from not. Wancheng said that he wouldn't drink the medicine, but then he still obediently took it as scheduled. That night, Lin Qingyu watched Wancheng fall asleep. There was a rush of footsteps outside the door, and Hua Lu came running in out of breath. Xiaozhen! Xiaozhen! Lin Qingyu raised his hand to signal her to lower her voice. What happened? Hua Lu panted. Third young master! He's gone! Lin Qingyu asked. What do you mean by gone? He's dead! Lin Qingyu said. Oh. He covered Wancheng with the quilt and said softly, I've done something bad again, Wancheng. I've done something bad again, Wancheng. Ooh, that's good. Like a boss. Oh, he's so good. Oh, I love it so much. It's so good. Oh, I'm going to take a little drink. I don't hydrate it enough. I know that Papa Mutt will be mad, but I'm... It's not water. Do I know better as a voice actor that I should be drinking water? Yes, I absolutely do. Am I going to switch out this Diet Coke for water? No, I am not. Quick little tip out there for all you narrators, voice actors, out loud readers, speech givers, anyone who talks a lot and needs to be able to project for a long. See, I don't feel guilty not drinking water because I'm not projecting my voice at all when I'm doing this. When I do my regular books and my actual podcast, I project, but I don't here, so I don't worry about it. But there's a little trick if you suffer from mouth clicks. Now, mouth clicks are, I'm not going to do the sound because it grosses me the F out and I hate it so much. But mouth clicks are the noises your mouth naturally makes. And I don't mean like, I don't mean burping or swallowing or even plosives. I mean that really gross where you can actually hear your tongue moving and that inside your mouth. Okay. I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to listen. This is mouth clicks or mouth noise. It's awful. It's such a disgusting sound, and I hate them so much. They are my arch nemesis. And ironically enough, it more often than not comes from having a dry mouth. So if you're properly hydrated, which, let's face it, 98% of us are not properly hydrated, but it's from being dehydrated, being tired, overuse of the voice, believe it or not, being in a studio or a room that has very dry, dead air, that can also cause it. Different things that you drink or eat throughout the day. It can come from coffee or alcohol that dries out the mouth, or it can come from having any kind of dairy, which actually makes you phlegmy. So cheese, ice cream, milk tea, which is fucking delicious, and I have a little cup every morning. All of that can actually make you super phlegmy, but not to be gross, but the phlegm isn't saturating your mouth. So it's like at the back and it makes you really like at the back of your throat, very phlegmy in that way. But it doesn't help your overall mouth feel. So to prevent that, if you've been in the voice acting industry or just go to conventions or listen to voice actors a lot, you will have probably heard the advice that they have where it's eat a green apple. You've probably heard this, right? Eat a green apple, and there's something in the enzymes of specifically a green apple, the tartness of it, I assume, helps with mouth clicks. Only problem is that if you're doing a narration for a book and you have to be able to keep reading and talking for hours on end, you're not going to be stopping, to eat an apple slice after every page. That's just not realistic, and it's not what you're going to do. So what you can do, and this was actually given to me by my my demo producer, my demo editor, the amazing actually, I'm going to put her, Fiona's, I'm going to put all of her links and everything in my description and give a nice plug because she was incredible. But she's the one who offered me this, a little tip. So in your huge bottle jug of water, that there, I got a ginormous one, but I'm saving it for tomorrow because we're doing a podcast episode tomorrow. So there's that. You put just a little bit, like very, very little bit of apple juice in it. Just a little. You if I'm going with proportions, you want to make it maybe 10 to 25% of your glass of water, like a very little bit. I usually I eyeball it just enough to change the color. Because you don't want it too much that it makes your mouth pucker, but something in the apple juice will help, I'm going to say it, lubricate your mouth properly and give you the proper hydration. Am I doing that now? Fuck no. Oh my God, that was so obnoxious. But yeah, so whenever I'm doing an audiobook or I've got any kind of voice work, or I'm doing my podcast, little bit of apple juice in the water, and it'll make it last, and you can go a long time. Okay. After that little plug, let us continue. And yeah, okay. Yeah, that's right. How are my levels? Everything's good. Okay. Chapter 37. Young Master. Do you think Young Master is getting better? Oh no, this is going to be so sad. Where's my sad music? Cue the sad music. Oh no, wait. This is for Liu Chaosong first, not him. Liu Chaosong died suddenly from a medicine overdose. That's an awesome way to start the chapter. It happened too suddenly. At noon, Liu Chaosong was still in high spirits, with matchless energy, feeling as though he could lift up a mountain. In the evening, blood came gushing from all 7 apertures of his head. There's 7? Anyways. He lost control over his bladder and rectum. He died in Qingdai Pavilion. Liang Shi couldn't take such a blow. Upon hearing the news, she lost consciousness. Nan'an Hou only went to Qingdai Pavilion to take a look, after which he then stumbled to the Liu family's ancestral hall. In the end, Liu Chaosong's funeral was actually handled by Pan Shi. Pan Shi had already been preparing for a funeral, but she had been preparing it for Lu Wancheng. No one could have imagined that Liu Chaosong would actually walk in front of Lu Wancheng, and that it would be such a tragic way to die, too. Was it tragic, though? Was it? Really? Naturally, she couldn't use the things she'd prepared for Lu Wancheng. So Pan Shi had to have people purchase the supplies at the last minute. They had to make do with what was available for a lot of the things. There were mourning flags hung in the Nan'an Hou's mansion, paper money wafted in the wind. Liu Chaosong's coffin was placed in the main hall. Liang Shi, dressed in plain white mourning clothes, knelt down in front of the coffin. Her eyes, though, were empty, her expression numb. Her tears seemed to have dried up. Although Liu Chaosong died disgracefully, he was, after all, the son of the official wife. During his life, he had created a wide network of contacts. He had everything going his way. A lot of people came to offer their condolences. Among them was an unfamiliar man who claimed to be a eunuch from the Eastern Palace, who came to know... I hate this fucking word. Who came to kowtow to the third young master in place of the side concubine. Finally, Liang Xi's face showed some reaction. She asked in a hoarse voice, "The side concubine, is she doing well?" The man showed signs of hesitation. Under repeated questioning from Liang Xi, he told her that Nan'an Tao had been confined in the cold palace by the crown prince. Liang Xi was stunned for a long time. Her eyes fell on Lin Qingyu, and she suddenly shrieked, her whole body quivering all over. She panted at Lin Qingyu's face and said hysterically, "Evil monster! The Nan'an whose mansion married a monster into the family!" Lin Qingyu said indifferently, "Madam must be joking. At the beginning, wasn't it you who said that I am the mansion's lucky star?" Liang Xi's eyes widened. As if someone was strangling her throat, she kept spouting weird, nonsensical words. Liang Xi went completely insane. The doctor said that she was suffering from hysteria and that she will probably never be able to recover. Nan'an Hou suffered one blow after another. He was exhausted both mentally and physically. He took to his bed and remained there. He no longer had the energy to look after the family's affairs, so he simply let the servants look after his wife, warning them against letting her run out and making a spectacle of herself. All other things were left to Pan Shi to take care of. Lu Wancheng's body improved a little during Liu Chaosong's funeral. However, it meant only that he was awake a little more, and that he was able to speak for a while. After learning of Liu Chaosong's sudden death, Liang Xi's insanity, and Nan'an Hu's bedridden condition, Lu Wancheng wasn't the least bit surprised. Instead, he looked at Lin Qingyu in admiration and said, "Qingyu, you seem to have become even more good-looking." Oh, fuck, I love him. It was like a long, dormant, highly poisonous flower finally blooming. Frighteningly beautiful. With just one look, it sent a person's soul astir. Lin Qingyu looked down at his clean and flawless hands with a bit of accusation in his tone. "You made me like this." Lu Wancheng laughed softly and said, "This is my honor." The sound of a sonar horn came from outside. It was the person from Xiongsi the funeral home, sending Liu Chaosong off to the western Pure Land of ultimate bliss, the underworld. The two were silent for a while. Then Lu Wancheng suddenly asked, "Qingyu, where do you think Liu Chaosong will go?" "When a person dies, naturally there is nothing left. Where else can they go?" "Then, do you know how I got here?" Lin Qingyu was startled and said, "You've never told me. How would I know?" "One day, I was heading home from school. I rescued a pregnant woman on the road, but lost my own life." Lu Wancheng sighed. I'm a really good person. Lin Qingyu's eyes went wide. You mean you died once? Li Wancheng nodded. A car fully loaded with cargo ran over me. Don't mention it, though. It was quite painful. Li Wancheng smiled. They say retribution is paid out in kind. I saved 2 people, so doesn't that mean that I'm entitled to live twice? Xu Zhengyan performed a divination for me. He said I may not be destined to die yet. Lin Qingyu suddenly stood up and blurted out, How can that be possible? Li Wancheng could no longer pretend to be relaxed and said in a stern tone, It's possible. When I die, I might really die and be reduced to nothing. Even if I am lucky enough to reawaken, it may not be here in Dayu, or it may not even be here in this world. Do you understand? Lin Qingyu stared blankly at Li Wancheng. After a long time, he said, How sure are you of this? Li Wancheng was silent for a long time and said softly, I don't know. Lin Qingyu tried his best to restrain his emotions. Then what is it for? Li Wancheng seemed to have expected this reaction. He said, voice shrinking, I'm sorry. I hesitated for a long time, and in the end, I thought that I should still tell you. Why tell me something you're not sure about? Lin Qingyu couldn't bear it any longer. He was ready to lose Wancheng forever, but Lu Wancheng told him that he may still have a chance. What did Lu Wancheng want him to do? Do nothing all day, thinking about whether he died or not, waiting for an answer that he wasn't even sure would come? If in the end it was simply a possibility, he would rather not have this possibility. Wait for me for a year, Lu Wancheng said, then wondered if a year would be too long. He and Lin Qingyu had only known each other for a year. For what reason would he ask him to wait for him for a year? It doesn't need to be a year. Half a year. No, 100 days is enough. Lu Wancheng said urgently, for fear that his request would be rejected for being too excessive. If I don't come to you within 100 days, just treat me as having died. We can agree on a secret signal. If I don't die and transmigrate into somebody else's body, we'll use this signal to recognize each other. Okay? Lin Qingyu's mouth was twisted. His state of mind was thrown into confusion. He gritted his teeth and said, Lu Wancheng, you bastard. Li Wancheng forced a smile on his face. Other beauties would at most call their husbands a jerk, but Dr. Lin is better. He uses bastard from the get-go. Truly worthy of being my wife. Get lost! Li Wancheng teased. I can't get lost, Qingyu. My legs are broken. Li Wancheng had not only lost his legs, none of his internal organs were intact as well. He would take poison every day, dazed with pain. He could only call out his name. Lin Qingyu closed his eyes. Tell me. Lu Wancheng was taken aback. Tell you what? The signal. Lu Wancheng smiled slowly. Let me think about it. The signal needed to be catchy, easy to remember, one that no one else would know. After some deliberation, Lu Wancheng said, Then, if odd, change. If even, remain the same. For the symbol, look to the quadrant. Then Qingyu said coldly, What in heaven's name is this? Can't you say something that I can understand? If there's something you don't understand, you can ask, and I'll explain it to you. Lin Qingyu asked, What you said just now, what does it mean? What does the word Lao Po mean? What does sexuality mean? Wancheng automatically ignored the last two questions and said, This starts with the basic theorem for trigonomic functions. Wancheng was in the middle of talking with gusto when his brows suddenly wrinkled and he bit his lip. This was a sign of his poison breaking out. Lin Qingyu said, I'll go get the needles. Giving Wancheng acupuncture could reduce his pain a little. It was a drop in the bucket, but it was better than nothing. Wancheng grabbed him, shook his head, and said, No need. Just stay with me. Lin Qingyu sat down beside the bed and let Wancheng lie in his arms. Wancheng futilely opened his eyes wide. He stared straight ahead, his fingers gripping Lin Qingyu's arm tightly. He asked him with a smile, Qingyu, the signal, do you remember it clearly? Lin Qingyu covered his eyes with his hand. I remember it clearly. You really only need to wait 100 days. Wancheng closed his eyes beneath Lin Qingyu's palm. Don't wait too long. I'll feel distressed. After the beginning of winter, it was the time of lesser snow. This year's snow was a lot later than usual. The sky was always gloomy. It seemed that even heaven wasn't sure whether it should snow or not. Wancheng spent less and less time awake, and whenever he was, it was because of the pain from the poison. In the past, he could sit in a wheelchair and go into the yard to bask in the sun. But now he couldn't even sit up. Save for the bed, he couldn't go anywhere. At the end of the month, Lin Qingyu returned to the Lin residence to celebrate Mother Lin's 40th birthday. Seeing that he had come back alone, Mother Lin knew that Wancheng's situation was not optimistic. She was afraid that her eldest son would be uncomfortable, so she didn't ask much. But Lin Qinghe asked why Wancheng didn't come with him. Lin Qingyu rubbed his head and said that Wancheng would come next time. Mother Lin preferred the quiet over the bustle and excitement. In addition, her husband was away, and so she simply made some dishes that her sons liked and spent her birthday quietly with her children. She looked at the cloudy sky outside the window and said, When the snow falls, it will be time for your father to return home. Lin Qingyu didn't dare to be away from the Hou mansion for too long. After having lunch with Mother Lin, he returned to the Hou mansion, back at the Blue Wind Pavilion. Back at the Blue Wind Pavilion, Lin Qingyu saw Hua Lang humming a little song in the yard, watering the withered osmanthus tree. He asked, Why are you so happy? Ever since Wancheng vomited blood, the entire Blue Wind Pavilion had been bleak and gloomy. He hasn't seen Hua Lu looking so pleased in a long time. Hua Lu happily said, Young Master Hou just woke up. He's in a good mood today. He managed to sit up by himself and drank half a bowl of porridge in one go. He even had me change him into red festive clothes. Xiaojun, do you think the young master is getting better? Lin Qingyu was stunned for a moment, and then his heart suddenly sank. I don't know. You know it's coming. You know it's coming. Oh no. Oh, I hate that. Prepare for tears. Okay? For all y'all who's watching, you prepare yourself for tears. Get your tissues. I know I've said this like a bajillion times. But this is, what do they call it? It's something that's so poetic. What is it? Final radiance before the setting sun? Something like that. Sorry, I just got to hydrate just a sec. Oh, man. I'm not stopping here. Okay, wait. Is it this and the next chapter? So wait, we started on 26, 27, 28, 29. So yeah, so this chapter and another one, because I like to do 4 each episode. So yes. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I'm not putting this off. We're getting right into this. I got my sad music. Let's crank this bitch. Everyone get your tissues. Here we go. Oh man. And if we have to stop for tears, just go with it. Chapter 38. Qingyu, I'm a little tired. Lin Qingyu came to the door of the bedroom. It had been left open. For his trip back to the Lin residence today, he hadn't brought along Huan Tong. Huan Tong was squatting beside Lu Wancheng's wheelchair, covering his legs with a blanket. Huan Tong had grown experienced and knowledgeable after following him for so many years. Seeing that Lu Wancheng's vigor was unusually good today, he wasn't overjoyed like Hua Lu. He merely forced himself to put on an air of cheerfulness as he talked to Lu Wancheng. What would young Master Hou like to eat tonight? I'll have the kitchen make preparations. Lu Wancheng thought about it and said, I want to eat plum cake. Huan Tong said in a hoarse voice, All right. What time is it? Lu Wancheng asked, turning to the direction of the wardrobe. Lin Qingyu followed and looked at the wardrobe too, but couldn't find anything special. Huan Tong said, Zhen Shi is over. Why hasn't your young master come back yet? He should be here soon. Young master said he'll be back before dinner. Lu Wancheng kept looking in that direction, a little worried. Hurry up. Lin Qingyu withdrew. In the yard, Hua Lu was still humming a little tune. The tune was brisk and melodious. She turned and saw that Lin Qingyu was standing at the door. She said, puzzled, Xiaojun, why haven't you gone in yet? Lin Qingyu came back to his senses and said, Hua Lu, lend me your makeup box. Lin Qingyu has only ever put on makeup once in his life. On the day he married Lu Wancheng. Because it wasn't suitable for a man to wear heavy makeup, he was extremely adverse to the idea. When he got married, the matron of honor only painted his eyebrows, colored his lips, and placed the huadian in the middle of his brows. Lu Wancheng didn't care whether he painted his eyebrows or lips. He seemed to just want to see him wearing his bridal attire with the huadian on his brows. Lin Qingyu looked at himself in the bronze mirror. He suddenly found that he seemed to have lost a lot of weight. He picked up the brush and, looking into the mirror, made stroke after stroke to recreate the huadian that had been painted between his brows that day. It was a simple, symmetrical huadian, with just 3 strokes. It was enough to change a person's qualities. He no longer seemed like himself, transforming into a wife that relied on her looks to please her husband. It turns out, even a gentleman can make himself beautiful for her friend who understands him. Then he took off the plain and simple clothes he had on, putting on the complicated bridal attire layer by layer. He tied the jade belt around his waist and finally draped the embroidered tasseled cape on his shoulders. He took off the jade crown tying his hair and let his long, fine black hair fall like a waterfall. He picked up the bridal crown, thought about it, and put it back down. It was already enough. In the end, He was sending him off, not marrying him. "Young master?" Wancheng's voice came from outside. "Young master, are you back?" Before Lin Qingyu could answer, Wancheng rushed in and was stunned when he saw him. Lin Qingyu stood up, the back of his wedding dress dragging against the ground. He didn't have a crown on his head, and he simply let his long hair hang down naturally. When he lowered his head, his hair half blocked his face. Wancheng has never seen his young master look like this before. So bright and colorful, so made up. His every gesture was full of amorous feelings. He stayed dazed for a while, until Lin Qingyu walked in front of him. Only then did he slowly come around. "Master, why are you?" Lin Qingyu asked. "Where is Master Hou?" I'm getting teary. I'm getting teary, guys. Oh my god, I can't see the screen. "Young Master Hou thought that young master hadn't come back yet, so he said he was going to wait in the yard." Wancheng remembered what he was here for, and his voice grew choked. Young Master Hou, he..." "I know," Lin Qingyu said, unusually calm. "Have them prepare dinner. Tonight, you and the others don't need to serve by our side." Not gonna lie, guys, I can't see. Give me a sec. I can't see. Bridal attire, or wedding dresses, were heavy and inconvenient to wear. If you weren't careful, you might step on the hem. In order to get to Lu Wancheng quickly, he had to lift up his skirt like a woman, walking through the silent corridor, quickly reaching the courtyard. Lu Wancheng, dressed in bright red clothes and a snow-white fox fur cape, sat in his long unused wheelchair that had been empty for a long time. Like a red plum in the snow, spectacularly rushing into the viewer's eyes. Today, Lu Wancheng was in high spirits. His cheeks and lips were rosy, his eyes were bright. He carried with him that faint youthful vigor, as though he had gone back to this year's warm spring. At that time, Lu Wancheng didn't have to sit in a wheelchair. He had even overestimated himself trying to carry him. If the clothes on Lu Wancheng's body weren't that loose, and if his legs still retained feeling, he might have also thought that Lu Wancheng really was getting better. Lu Wancheng just sat there, waiting for him to come. Lin Qingyu opened his lips. "Wancheng." Lu Wancheng's reaction was a little sluggish. He was stunned at first. Then he turned his head slowly, looked at him, and smiled. "You're back." It was no different from his usual reaction to seeing him. Lin Qingyu's chest seemed to be hit hard by something. Lu Wancheng had said so many times that he wanted to see him wearing his bridal attire, with the Hua Dian on his forehead. Why was it that now that he was actually wearing it, had actually drawn it, he had no special reaction at all? He raised his hand and tried to touch Lu Wancheng's eyes. His fingertips almost brushed Lu Wancheng's eyelashes. But Lu Wancheng still kept his eyes open, staring at him without blinking. The corners of his mouth were curved, and he smiled very beautifully. "Did you come home today to eat plum cake made by mother-in-law? By the way, have Qinghee's front teeth grown back in yet?" Lin Qingyu's hand froze in midair and slowly dropped. I did have some plum cake, and Jinghe's teeth have grown back. How could he forget? Lu Wancheng's body was now filled with poison. It was normal for anything to happen. How could he forget? I asked Huan Tong to have some plum cakes prepared. I asked Hua Tong to have some plum cakes prepared, Lu Wancheng said. Would you accompany me to eat some more? Then Qingyu nodded. When he heard Lu Wancheng call out, Qingyu, again, he then said, All right, but it's cold outside. I'll push you back in. Lin Qingyu pushed Lu Wancheng into the hall. According to the rules of wealthy families, all meals should be had in the hall. In the past, Lu Wancheng was lazy and always had food brought to him. Later, Lu Wancheng gradually became seriously ill, and even when the food was delivered to his bed, he couldn't eat much. Huan Tong asked the kitchen to prepare a table of dishes, and when, eyes red, he was about to withdraw after serving the dishes, Lu Wancheng stopped him. Is there any wine? Lin Qingyu did not allow his patient to drink alcohol. The two have been married for so long, and they have never shared a drink. Lin Qingyu said, Your body is not suitable for drinking. Lu Wancheng said, But I'm already 18 years old. This has nothing to do with... Lin Qingyu took a deep breath and in a normal tone, It has nothing to do with how old you are. What do you mean it has nothing to do with age? Being 18 means you get to do whatever you want. It's been hard to get to 18. How can I just do nothing? Lu Wancheng paused and smiled. Dr. Lin, let me have a drink. Lin Qingyu stabilized his breathing and instructed Huan Tong, Go get some wine. Huan Tong poured wine for the two of them and whispered, If the young masters need nothing else, I will retire first. He was afraid that if he stayed any longer, he wouldn't be able to stop himself from bawling. Lu Wancheng said, If you go, who will serve me dinner? Huan Tong looked helplessly at Lin Qingyu. Lin Qingyu said, I will serve you. Lu Wancheng was slightly dazed, pretending to be surprised. How nice of you? Lin Qingyu served Lu Wancheng a bowl of soup. He brought the spoon to his mouth. Open your mouth. Lu Wancheng opened his mouth obediently and carefully took a sip of the soup. He showed a satisfied expression. One more sip. After eating a few mouthfuls of food, Lu Wancheng said that he wanted to drink. The wine had been warmed in advance, and Huan Tong had specially chosen the milder pear wine. This wine goes down smoothly, and its aroma lingers for a long time. Lu Wancheng took a sip and said, This is good wine. He said so even though he clearly couldn't even taste the bitterness of his medicine anymore. Lin Qingyu turned his head and couldn't bear to look at him. He heard Lu Wancheng ask him, Qingyu, is this the kind of wine that we drank when we got married? Before Lin Qingyu could answer, he said to himself, Don't tell me you drank the nuptial cup with the rooster as well. Lin Qingyu closed his eyes. I don't remember. Lu Wancheng said, Then treat it as though you drank it with me. Ooh, this is tough. It's tough. Lin Qingyu restrained his emotions and opened his eyes again. The night outside the window was getting darker. Without him noticing, light snow had begun to fall. Fluttering snowflakes fell to the ground. The snow and the moon were all entirely white. This was the first snow of winter. Lin Qingyu felt a hint of joy in his heart. He remembered that Wancheng had said that he wanted to see him standing in the snow, holding an umbrella. His cheeks dyed red by his clothes. Wancheng, it's snowing outside. Do you want to go in? The word see was stuck in his throat. He couldn't say it. It's snowing? Wancheng didn't seem to notice that Lin Qingyu was acting strange. His tone was light. Then I'm quite lucky. Let's go and enjoy the snow. Lin Qingyu had dismissed the servants in advance. They were all waiting in their own rooms. No one saw him standing in the snow in his bridal attire. Having a tough time with this. No one saw him standing in the snow in his bridal attire, holding an umbrella with his long hair cascading down. No one saw. Wancheng stretched out his hand and let the soft white snowflake fall to his palm. Away from the light of the moon, his face quickly dimmed. His lips lost its rosy color, and only his eyes remained bright. It was like a short-lived flower, withering quickly after trying to bloom. Too brief. Too frighteningly brief. Lin Qingyu didn't know how to make his bloom last longer. He could only hold his cold hand in vain. Is it cold? Wancheng shook his head and suddenly asked him, Qingyu, do you still like women? Lin Qingyu's Adam's apple bobbed up and down. He said, naturally. Wancheng nodded and said with a smile, that's good. Wancheng stared at the snow for a while, his eyes half open, half closed. Qingyu, I'm a little tired. Lin Qingyu's heart felt empty, and he said softly, if you're tired, then sleep. When you fall asleep, you'll be relieved. Just a sec. If you're tired, then sleep. When you fall asleep, you'll be relieved. You'll no longer have to suffer from the pain of sickness and poison. But Wancheng didn't listen to him. Stubbornly opening wide his eyes, he smiled, embarrassed. I'm sorry, Qingyu. I don't think I can hold on anymore. But I've worked really hard. Don't be angry. I'm not. I'm not. Lin Qingyu knelt in the snow, holding an umbrella in one hand and holding Wancheng's cheek in the other. his voice soft as water. I'm not angry. Wancheng had probably already seen that the Eastern Palace affair hadn't gone as they wished. Yes, Wancheng was so smart. He knew everything. How could he not have seen it? Wancheng smiled under the umbrella and told him one last joke. On the day of Xiao Cheng's tragic death, at the family ceremony, don't forget to tell your husband. Lin Qingyu couldn't help but smile when he heard his words. Wancheng seemed to sense that he was smiling and kept looking at him. He kept watching him until he couldn't hold it any longer, and he finally closed his eyes. Then, I'm going to sleep for a while. Remember to wake me up. Lin Qingyu promised him. Okay. The snow came down heavier. The snow came down heavier. No matter how warm Lin Qingyu's hand was, the man's hands The snow came down heavier. No matter how warm Lin Qingyu's hand was, the man's hand still grew colder, little by little, in his. So cold that it pierced through the bone. The north wind brought evening snow. The cold color illuminated them. Everywhere was silence. He was wearing his wedding dress, a huadian on his forehead, just like when he and Wancheng first met. Oh my god! So yeah, excuse me while I blow my nose. Okay, so these chapters here that I'm reading, I edit them to put them together. And while I was editing them, I was going, at least he does get to see him in his wedding dress. And then he didn't. Oh, I'm sad. That's really fucking awful. And it's funny because going into this, I was joking with one of our other followers that, oh yes, there will be pain. Like, this is gonna bring you pain. Was not expected to hurt that much. I love that. When the crown prince dies, be sure to tell your husband. That is one of my, there's two phrases that make me break down each and every time. And one I can remember where it came from. The other one I think it came from Buffy. But one of them is, and it was in here, was like, can I rest now? Oh! A second, I gotta blow my nose again. Oh man, I'm gonna have to apologize for that reading. That was probably not very good. With how many times I had to stop and start because I was unintelligible. All right. One thing that I've caught on with this no, that's still not appropriate. That's appropriate. One thing that I have caught on with this story is that the sadness doesn't last for long. So, in theory, we shouldn't be in the sadness for too long. I'm gonna stay here for now because I can see that first line, like all of you can. So, all right. Chapter 39. Let's not end this on the tears, because if you end on tears, people don't always come back. And I think we have a little more comeuppance to get through. Okay. The music was pretty good for that, though, wasn't it? I'll give you that. Okay. Here we go. There's a part of me that kind of wants to stay in the emotion, to stay in the tears and the emotion of it all, because here's two people that they get married while Lu Wancheng is in a coma, and he just wakes out of, "Who are you? I'm your new wife and I hate you." Don't worry, it won't be a real marriage because I'm not a cut sleeve. Oh, good, because I had never planned on sleeping with you to begin with. If you had touched me, I would have killed you. I had a plan. And to see the camaraderie and the companionship and the understanding and the friendship and just the pure relationship and the regard grow between them. Oh, shit, that was good. It was so good. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Chapter 39. His name is not Lu Wancheng. That night, Lu Wancheng died in front of Lin Qingyu's eyes. His long lashes drooped. His expression was serene. He wore a festive crimson robe, and his body was clean and clear. One of his hands was held by Lin Qingyu, and the other was placed on the armrest of the wheelchair, as if he really were just asleep. Fuck, they're leaving us in it. His face was unsupported and tilted to one side, the same way it would whenever he dozed off in his wheelchair. Lin Qingyu subconsciously... Lin Qingyu subconsciously dropped the umbrella in his hand and held up Lu Wancheng's icy cheek. Fuck, we're still in it, everyone. Can't see the screen. Without the cover of the umbrella, the snow fell silently on their hair, on their faces, on their shoulders. The shop assistant from the Xiongsi had told Lin Qingyu the course of the funeral ceremony. He should remember it very, very clearly. But right now, he was at a loss. Lu Wancheng was dead. What should he do? Fuck, give me a minute. Okay. You're an actor, damn it. Wancheng was really worried and came to the courtyard to see the situation. He saw his young master kneeling on one knee in front of the wheelchair, his bright red bridal attire spread out on the snow, his long hair blocking the side of his face. He held young Master Hu's hand in one of his, and had his other on young Master Hu's cheek. Next to him lay an open umbrella as they were slowly covered with snow. The two were motionless, like statues. "Young Master Hou!" Lin Qingyu heard a cry from behind. It was Huantong's voice. Huantong was someone he brought from the Lin residence. Like him, he hated the entire Nan'an Hu mansion. Who would have thought that he would cry so sadly for Wancheng in the end? Wancheng was truly capable, conquering people's hearts in such a short span of less than a year. Huantong knelt in front of the wheelchair. Barely able to breathe from crying. His crying brought Lin Qingyu back to reality from his blank days. Wancheng was dead. Maybe he'd been reborn in some bizarre world. Or maybe he really died. No one could tell him the answer, and he didn't know if he could wait for the answer. But no matter what, he promised Wancheng that he would watch him go. And then live a good life. He had already done the first half. Lin Qingyu slowly stood up. He stayed in the same position for too long, and when he got up, his eyes darkened for a moment. He almost fell over, but in the end, he caught himself. "Don't cry," he heard himself say. "Didn't you listen to what the man from Xiangsi said? If you let your tears drop on him, you won't even be able to see him in your dreams." Huantong said, voice trembling, "Young master." Lin Qingyu gradually recalled that Xiangsi's shop assistant had said. He ordered numbly, "Move him into the house and cover his face with white silk. There's no need to change his clothes. Just place him in the coffin wearing these. Afterwards, you can go and report his death." He paused, then said, "By the way, you need to carry him on your back. Don't princess carry him." Huantong, choking with sobs, nodded. "What about you, young master?" "I'm going to change clothes." He didn't want to let others see him in his bridal attire, with the Hua Dian on his forehead. Only Wancheng could see that. No one else could. I desperately need more characters to be crying in this so that I can do it without having to hold back. When news came to the palace, the Empress mourned greatly. The child born with the sacrifice of her prematurely deceased sister did not survive past weak crown, after all. She also thought of her child, far away in another palace. Even just visiting him was difficult when she had to look on. Even just visiting him was difficult, but she had to look on as other people's sons flourished. She was saddened more and more. The Empress wept secretly in Fengyi Palace. She couldn't leave the palace, so she could only send her trusted eunuch to go to the mansion to offer her condolences. The emperor was sympathetic to his minister. He bestowed a lot of things on Nan'an Hou and allowed him to stay at home to recuperate, even going so far as to temporarily transfer his responsibilities at the Ministry of Revenue to the Crown Prince to handle. Wen Gugong and his wife were also in tears when they learned that their grandson had passed away. They were both old and couldn't bear to watch this heartbreaking scene. So they chose a few capable stewards to help their granddaughter-in-law handle the funeral. They knew that their grandson cared about this granddaughter-in-law of theirs. Otherwise, he wouldn't have asked them to send trusted aides several times just because he didn't want him to be dragged into the household affairs. Aside from the members of the Liu clan, most of the condolences came from the court officials and their families. In the morning hall, the visitors met the male wife whose marriage was decreed by the emperor himself. However, they just saw him kneeling in front of the coffin in his white mourning clothes, expression indifferent. Not a single tear shed from beginning to end. In the middle of the morning hall was a big character. Let me see how to pronounce this. Dian. Okay. In the middle of the morning hall was a big Dian character. White streamers fluttered in the wind. The whole scene, unexpectedly, gave his appearance an eerie sort of beauty. Within a month, the Nan'an Hou's mansion suffered the successive departure of the two young masters. The master was laid up in bed, and the madam had descended into madness. It was truly unthinkable, and it led to a lot of busybodies gossiping about it privately. What was called a husband and wife can only be a man and a woman. For two men to be husband and wife was in defiance of the natural order. Not to mention, with how beautiful the male wife was, how could a sick seedling be able to stand it? No retribution had come. It could clearly be seen that what the Nan'an Hou cherished with that day It could clearly be seen that what the Nan'an Hou clashed with that day was not joy, but disaster. There was an endless stream of mourners during the day, and only at night could Lin Qingyu find some peace. Hua Lu cried as she put the paper money into the brazier. She cried the most out of everyone in the whole Blue Wind Pavilion. "What is there to cry about?" Lin Qingyu said indifferently. "Didn't I tell you earlier that he wouldn't survive the winter?" Hua Lu had been reduced to a puddle of tears. "But, Xiaojun, are you really not sad at all?" Lin Qingyu was stunned for a moment and said, "I'm fine." Everything was as he expected. As early as the first time he saw Wancheng, he knew that he wouldn't live long. He had a year to mentally prepare. What was there to be sad about? Whenever Lin Qingyu looked at Wancheng's memorial tablet, he kept feeling that something was off. After thinking about it for a long time, he finally realized what was wrong. He stood up abruptly and said, "You're all mistaken." "Young master, what did you say?" "He's not called Wancheng." Pan Shi and Hua Lu looked at each other. Pan Shi thought that Lin Qingyu had gotten mentally confused from lack of proper rest. She persuaded, "Xiaojun, Why don't you go back to the room to rest for a while? I'll keep watch here. Lin Qingyu shook his head and repeated what he had just said. He's not called Wancheng. Pen Shi was helpless. If he's not called Wancheng, what is his name? Lin Qingyu opened his lips. His name is Zhang. His voice came to a stop abruptly. The crying did not stop, though. It was sad and mournful, intermittent. It made people fed up with it. Lin Qingyu worked hard to block out these voices. He never forgets anything that has gone through his ears. So long as that person said it, he would definitely remember it. He thought about it for such a long time. So long that everyone else had already left, and he was the only one left in the morning hall. However, he still couldn't think of that person's name. He only remembered the nonsense that person spouted during that mid-autumn festival night. My surname is Ju, and my name is Dazhong. Besides Wancheng, you can also call me Big Brother Dazhong. Okay, I'll stop teasing you. Actually, my surname is Zhang, and my name is... Lin Qingyu chuckled softly. The candlelight reflected in his pale and undisguised face. He slowly put away his smile. After that, there was no other expression. Like this, he sat in front of the man's coffin, staying until daybreak. The time after Lu Wancheng's death seemed to pass extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it was already the 7th day after his death. According to legend, the soul of the deceased will return home on the 7th day to see his relatives for the last time. Only then can he be reincarnated with peace of mind. During the night of the 7th day, family members must avoid staying in front of the coffin, meeting with the deceased spirit in their dreams instead. Lin Qingyu never believed this, but he still went to bed early. Maybe it was from overwork during the past few days, but he quickly fell asleep. In his dreams, he vaguely heard someone calling his name. Though the voice was unfamiliar, the tone was... There was that sound of a smile in its sloppiness. It sounded just like a certain person. Then Qingyu suddenly opened his eyes. He thought he would meet Lu Wancheng, but unexpectedly, he saw an unfamiliar young man. The young man was tall, with wide shoulders and long legs. He was wearing exotic clothes Lin Qingyu had never seen before. He had neat, short hair and unrestrained and exquisite facial features. His brows had a lazy, languid feel. He was a handsome man who looked like he didn't get enough sleep. The young man sat on the ground, leaning against the bed. Seeing that Lin Qingyu was awake, he smiled and called to him. Qingyu. Lin Qingyu looked at him blankly. I didn't lie to you, the young man said with a smile, cheek in his hand. Aren't I much better looking than Wancheng? Lin Qingyu nodded absent-mindedly. The boy asked again, Isn't my voice better than his? Lin Qingyu nodded again. The teenager grabbed his hand and put it on his lower abdomen. I'll let you touch my abs. The boy only wore a thin shirt with short sleeves. Lin Qingyu felt the so-called abs. They were warm and firm, full of vitality, and extremely real. Is this a dream? Is this person the Wancheng he imagined? The young man looked at him for a while and sighed. It wasn't easy getting to meet you again. Why aren't you saying anything? If you don't speak, I'm leaving. Lin Qingyu became anxious and grabbed the hem of the boy's clothes. Where are you going? There is only one road in front of me. I can only go forward. As for where this road leads, I don't know. Do you remember our secret signal? Lin Qingyu immediately recited it. The teenager showed a satisfied smile and stood up. I should go. Lin Qingyu also got out of bed, only to realize that the boy was half a head taller than him. Your name? Lin Qingyu asked eagerly. What's your name? The young man was silent, then suddenly hugged him by the waist. Lin Qingyu was caught off guard and instinctively wrapped his arms around the boy's neck. The teenager smiled happily. You're so light, lighter than I thought. This person wouldn't allow others to princess carry him, but he himself could princess carry others so easily. Lin Qingyu wanted to ridicule him. Then, thinking about how this person was already dead, how they were in a dream, he swallowed down his words again. He picked the critical question and asked, What's your name? If you don't tell me, how can I enshrine a memorial tablet for you? The teenager put him back on the bed and knelt down on one knee beside it, just as he knelt in front of his wheelchair that day. If I can come back, I'll tell you. If I don't come back, then treat me as if I never showed up. No, I want you to tell me now. The boy ignored him, turned and walked into the night, waving with his back to him. Lin Qingyu wanted to run after him, but his feet seemed to have taken root, and he couldn't move. Jiang. Jiang what? Lin Qingyu woke up from the dream to see that the sky was bright, and the room was full of hazy, clear light. Oh! I don't know about you, but fuck! Oh, sorry, you don't want to hear that, just... I just noticed. Are you guys hearing music at all? You're not. Awesome. Okay, so it did that again. OBS be weird. Are you serious? It says that it should be. Oh. Just a sec. Oh, you are. It's just very faint for you. Well, that sucks. All right. So yeah, how did you enjoy our... Holy goodness, that was intense. I don't even know how that turned out. I do have, so usually when I'm in the booth or I've got a scene like that where you have to keep talking and narrating through your tears. Normally, I can just take a break or edit it out after, and I can't. That was, oh my God. So, yeah. So, yeah, that was... Okay. Ooh, that looks good. That looks good. Okay. So, this was our Wednesday stream, and usually Wednesday streams are the end of... Let me just go back into this. Usually the Wednesday streams are the end of the streaming things until Monday. However, I do think that I will be streaming on Friday as well. This will not be a regular thing. It may be during the day. I don't know. I just know that my plans have changed and I've got a free day. But I will absolutely be working on some upcoming ideas for what to do with the channel. Do I have them in front of me? I don't know where I put my book. I have a list, a huge list. One of them is I want to do BL manga reviews. I want to do BL anime reviews, kind of sticking with a theme. But also there's a lot of live actions that are really good and I don't feel get anywhere near the attention. A lot of people don't even know they exist. And as your, let's say, Fujoshi senpai, I can help with that. There's some really, really good, and also I want to look into the rules of streaming and whether or not it's possible or allowed to watch things on stream. I know that there are ones where you can watch where you have like just like an edge of the whatever of the screen that you're watching on, and you can see just the edge of it, and it's not the real thing. So, but you are watching together as a watch party. I know you can do that, but I have this thing where I have this idea of being able to put it on, like put on a live action BL Asian drama, and have it playing. And for those of you who want to watch it or just listen to it, reading the voices for it or reading the lines that come across the screen or watching it together I don't know. But that's what I mean. There's a lot of stuff to look at. I will be putting up a poll in coming days. And it all depends on if I can get everything ready for a stream on Friday, but I will not be scheduling that. I will announce that we are going live on Twitter. And if you're a subscriber or follower, you will get a notice. So do that. Oh yeah, this is where I'm supposed to plug these. Please remember to like, subscribe, and follow my channel, my Twitch, my Twitter, my YouTubes, everything and anything in order to be alerted when we go live. So this coming Friday at some point, there's going to be a ghost episode. I don't know when it will be. I have absolutely no clue, but I do plan on it. Also, next episode will be better. When we do get to reading. Next episode will also be reading. Because a single day, tomorrow on Thursdays, I always get up my episode for SAF. And so those are really busy days. And so Friday, I won't have a chance to get all the stuff done that I want to for a new venture. So we'll be reading again. But I'm sure if you're here and you're watching this and you're following this, you're okay with that. Yeah. I don't think there's anything else. I think that's it. I want to thank you so much, everyone, for watching, for enjoying, for joining me. That's presumptuous to say that you automatically enjoyed it. For watching. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you will tune in again next time, where we will continue on with chapters 41 to 44. All right, so with all that out of the way, thank you so much for joining me, and until next time, happy listening.